Hello, and welcome to our session on building a streamlined and digital claims journey. I'm Lauren Brown, Executive Director of Strategic Partnerships at Compex, and I am joined today by Josh Thompson, Vice President of Auto and Property Claims at State Auto. Josh, thanks so much for joining me today. I'm excited to discuss with you the digital claims journey and some of the strategies and technology carriers are using to improve both efficiency and customer experience. Let's start by talking about the core of the digital claims journey, which is the customer experience. Where are the best opportunities to improve customer experience within the claims ecosystem?
Well, Lauren, thanks for having me. Looking forward to chatting with you today. We spend a ton of time talking about the customer experience at State Auto, and in particular as part of our digital journey that we're working on. And I'll start by kind of setting the stage and talking about, the claims process as a whole. If you think about the claims process, historically, the process is not really well received by customers. People aren't generally like, yay, I had a claim. This is going to be super simple. They're generally like, oh no, this is going to be a big pain. And I don't want to have to go through this experience. And that's because 90+% of claims really should flow through a system very easily. But there is a segment of claims that require more handling, maybe a more detailed investigation, the potential for fraud, something like that. So one of the things that I think about a lot is how do we find that large segment of claims, that 90% or whatever it should be, and let that percentage flow through a system with as much automation and as much simplicity as possible for a customer without a bunch of manual touch points, and then find out a way to peel out that 10% or so that truly needs more manual intervention and put those through a little bit different process that might be more monotonous, but that's a much smaller percentage. So then you have, 90% of your customers with this really simple, digital, streamlined process that isn't so painful and monotonous as the one that we put every claim through today.
That raises two great points. I think, claims automation, we've heard a lot more about that recently. Two questions for you. Expanding on the customer perspective a little bit more, what do you think that the customer experience looks like through, kind of that silo that you described? And then two, what do you think are, the biggest challenges to automating more of the claims journey?
There are certain types of claims that are going to require more hand-holding, more detailed investigations, those sort of things. So if I have a large loss fire, for example, a multi-million-dollar building, burns to the ground, I think customers are going to expect something different in a loss like that than, let's say, a very minor fender bender in their car. And, so much today, everyone talks about, and rightfully so, this like Amazon-like experience. And I do believe that customers are going to expect that, and really already do today to a certain degree, on those more minor crashes or even minor homeowners claims or injury claims. So how do we find a way to make those processes very, very simple, gathering the information that we need, taking care of our customer? And really that's what the claims profession is how do we take somebody that's had a loss and put them back to their pre-loss condition as easy as possible? And, I think whether it's an Amazon-like experience or a digital specific experience, it's simple. And it's really what the customer is looking for. So I think you find a way, if Amazon can get you a package on your doorstep in 24 to 48 hours of virtually anything that you want to buy, I think folks are going to want to figure out, hey, my car costs this much to repair, for example, in under a day. And, sometimes today it might take 3 or 4 days for some reason to get that. And I think customers are going to expect much faster, quicker, simpler, easier service for that. So that's definitely part of it. When you're looking at automating and digitizing the claims process, for me, part of it is how do we find those tasks that are repetitive? And how do we automate those tasks to free our adjusters up to be much more customer-facing, customer experience delivering associates and not so much taskmasters? I think today, a lot of what the adjuster has to do is check boxes and click on things and, progress a claim behind the scenes that way. And that really adds no value to a customer because the customer doesn't know any of that happens. All they know is they want their car repaired, for example. So I definitely think as we work down this digital journey in claims, you're going to see adjusters much less of clickers and much more customer facing and customer experience deliverers, so to speak. So the industry is definitely rapidly evolving in that regard. In terms of what the customer's expectations are and then what the impact is going to be on a claims professional.
You mentioned the, kind of telematics and wearables just briefly, but, how do you think that the customer's expectations are going to evolve with that kind of technology and interaction over the next 5 years? And, do you think that COVID has accelerated a shift in the customer's experience as well?
I do. So the telematics or wearables or really any IoT is, in my opinion, one of the most powerful tools that we'll have in the insurance industry going forward. So for State Auto, I'll back up a couple of years. In 2018, we believe we're one of the first carriers in the US to receive a crash notification directly from a vehicle and a telematics device. And what that allowed us to do is we knew that our customer was involved in a crash. So we were able to proactively reach out to the customer to check on them, see if we could help them, start to guide them through the beginning of the claims process. Historically, when you think about the claims process, it's very reactive. An insurance carrier is just sitting back and waiting for a customer to call them and report a loss. And a lot of things happen right after that loss, which are painful for the customer. So a vehicle could get towed to a tow yard, or they don't know how to get a rental car, or people get injured, of course, and they need some guidance on potentially what their medical bill coverage would be, those sort of things. So having that telematics device tell us there was a crash allows us to flip that process and make it proactive. So now I have someone reaching out saying, we saw that you may have been in an accident. Can I help you? And one of the things we weren't sure about at all was, well, our customer is going to like that. We thought there might be a situation where a customer is going to say, hey, that's weird, or big brother sort of reaction of like, how do you have this information? Or why are you reaching out to me? And we put our associates through a lot of training to make sure they were empathetic and knew how to handle these situations. And I would say we were somewhat surprised that overwhelmingly, nearly 100% of customers were thankful to hear from us. And a lot of them were kind of surprised and shocked to say, wait a second, my insurance carrier knows I may have been in an accident and is reaching out to help me. And even in the small percentages that might have been a false positive and they didn't have an accident, they were still thankful that we reached out and it was not what they were expecting. So we've continued to build on that program over the last couple of years. And it's really a big part of what we're trying to do in auto claims is how do we get more customers using telematics, which certainly helps on the usage-based insurance and the pricing side of the house. Mm-hmm. But there's also so many claims benefits that could come from that. And I think you can apply the same thing in a wearable situation, a smart home situation, really lots of different IoT opportunities that are there. I'll jump into the COVID question next, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Because I definitely think, nobody saw COVID coming. And I'll tell you, sort of one of the things that we lucked out on at State Auto was we were well down the virtual inspection path before COVID broke out. So we were writing a lot of estimates on autos from photos, or we were video collaborating with our insureds on homeowners claims, for example. And what COVID did was really just take that process and put it on steroids. So we were writing about half of our auto estimates from photos before. And then March of 2020 hit, and voila, all of a sudden now some customers weren't comfortable with us coming out, or our adjusters weren't necessarily comfortable with going out per se. So we went from 50 to 85% of our estimates being written virtually on the auto side of the house. And then we really saw like a 2 to 3x increase on the property side of the house as well in terms of the virtual inspections. And it's kind of the same thing, just like customers were excited or surprised to hear from us on the telematics piece. What we're seeing now is where people may have been somewhat hesitant to send in documentation virtually on a claim. They're used to somebody coming out to their home or doing a different path. Really now, that's almost the expectation. So now when we do need to send somebody out on the rare occasion, it's almost the opposite of like, you're actually sending somebody out. I thought I would be able to do this virtually. So I think that's one of many of the COVID impacts that we'll see going forward.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great insight, Josh. So going back to COVID, in terms of the impact that it's had on carriers internally, how has it impacted the pursuit of adding new integrations and digital processes within the claims ecosystem?
Yeah, it's a great question, Lauren. So I think as COVID broke out, it just accelerated and highlighted the importance of efficiency. And when I think about, again, sort of those tasks that an adjuster must do in the claims process before, one of the ways you can get at that and get more efficient and deliver a faster, better, quicker customer experience is to make strong integrations with vendor partners or, any part of the claims process. So, when I think about casualty claims, for example, if I have to have an adjuster or an associate spending time going to track down medical bills or records, the customer benefits really nothing from that other than at some point in time, we have information to try to settle their claim. So if I can have an automation built to automatically go out and call to Compex, for example, to go get that information for me, and then it comes back in naturally in the claim without the adjuster doing any manual effort, now they have more time to spend time doing those value-added tasks. I can evaluate the claim. I can spend time reviewing the materials, not necessarily just acquiring or holding on to the materials. So I think you can apply that anywhere, whether it's, an integration with a rental car company, with, an estimate-based company, a virtual inspection company. So we've actually spent a ton of time and continue to spend a lot of time looking for strong integration as much as we can into our claim system to really give that one source of truth as well for adjusters, because it's really painful for them to live in 5 or 6 different systems when they're trying to navigate the claims process. So if we can get them into one main claim system where most of their work is done and they live in, that by itself generates a lot of efficiency, and then again gives them more time to work with customers.
Yeah, exactly. And, to your point, at Compex, we've seen the importance of plugging into the ecosystem, just like you mentioned, and, integrating neatly into the workflows that our clients use every day. And the best example of this is our Guidewire add-on for record retrieval, which we recently released. And to your point, it's even more important now because of COVID, everyone's working remotely. There's a strong need to support adjusters who are working remotely and supporting them with digital workflows. So reducing the adjuster touch and supporting the shift to lower touch claims is critical to many of the carriers we work with. So through our integration, we've been able to pre-populate our order form with the claim information, saving the adjuster's time. We were also able to build a completely digital workflow, eliminating the need for the adjuster to receive paper and discs or send anything to a third party via, paper or disc. Compex takes care of everything electronically through our solution. Building on the need for more, digital workflows and processes, in what other ways have, claims handlers adapted since working remotely? What other technology have you had to plug in to kind of adapt in the last year?
Yeah, I think we were fortunate at State Auto as well, because we've invested so much over the last couple of years in becoming a fully digital company. That middle of March day or two where we went from everyone in the office to overnight, everyone working from home almost completely. I'm not going to lie, Lauren, I had a couple of sleepless nights because I'm like, how is this going to go? But it actually went so much better than I would have ever guessed. And, there's certainly technology on telephone-based software, for example, of when I'm working from home, how do I make sure I'm still plugged into our network to get those phone calls from customers? And, we were able to utilize digital software to essentially an adjuster can be anywhere in the world now. And it's just like they're sitting at their desk. Mm-hmm. And what's been kind of cool about it is the flexibility now around, hours that are worked and not having a morning commute or an evening commute. We've actually been able to expand our hours and offer extended service times to our customers that really have been super simple for our associates to deliver on because they're already at home and able to do that. So, that's just a few of the, technology things that we've used. We use a lot of, Google Chat and Google Hangout and things like that before COVID. And then I just think COVID put all of that on steroids. So, for the last year plus, we've spent a lot of time kind of living in that environment. And I think what's going to be fascinating is whenever things start to return to normal, I think you'll have the best of both worlds, where you have the stuff that works better in an office, you can have some of that, but then you'll also be able to capitalize on some of these digital communication tools that we've been using. I think about like a homeowner's claim, for example, and the ability to collaborate via video or photo with a homeowner. They don't care where our adjuster is located, right? They just want to know that there's somebody on the other end of that digital communication who's ready to help them. And it's just been wonderful because, you might have a customer who can't connect with you on a video collaboration at 2:00 in the afternoon because they're working. So they would rather do that at 6 or 7 o'clock. And that's easier now for an adjuster to do that because they're actually able to do that from home, where they might not have been able to do that before. So there's many, many examples we could give. I think for us, it's gone really, really, really well. And I think most companies have certainly adapted over the last year. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see what that looks like in the future.
Innovation is a word that gets thrown around a lot. We've seen technology platform shifts before, like the shift of consumers from, a desktop PC to mobile devices. Some people say we're in the middle of a technology platform shift in insurance. And with new applications of AI, machine learning and data science being researched by virtually every insurance company out there, how are carriers approaching innovation to deliver the claims journey better, faster, and cheaper in the future?
Yeah, I think you started to hit on exactly what we're doing, as well as probably every other carrier that's out there. But so many of those claims that I mentioned in one of my first responses that are in that 90% bucket that could flow through, with a more simple process. So many of those have what I'll call like somewhat simple decisions that need to be made. And there's a way using artificial intelligence, machine learning, and just data capture with some business rules that you can process a claim and set it up, especially on the front end, to move faster and quicker and better through the process for the customer. So when I think about a customer that's had an auto claim, we could ask for a digital first notice of loss to come in. We can have them answer a couple of questions for us. And using AI, business rules, and machine learning, now I can direct them down a specific path. Let's say, for example, I want them to take photos of their damage. Now I can generate automatically, without a human doing it, a text link to the customer to take their photos. They take the photos, it comes back. We have an estimate software system that we use through a vendor partner that can now start to process those photos using AI to actually create an estimate for the customer. So at this point, in the old process, you've got someone manually calling in to report a claim. You're maybe sending a human out to write an estimate. That person's going to then get a check in the mail, take their car to a body shop. Well, now I've got them reporting the claim online, snapping photos, hopefully within a few minutes, estimates automatically generated, and an electronic payment is going out before they've even talked to a human. And we're already doing a lot of those claims today at State Auto. So in the future, I think you'll even be able to add more and more steps onto that process where you'll get to a lot of claims in auto and property that are going to be truly straight through processed, potentially with no human involvement end to end. I think the casualty claims process, you and I were talking a little bit before our session, I think that's the area that there's a lot of opportunity in as well. It's a little more difficult, I would say, to use innovation and apply digital tools there, but not impossible. And I think the upside is really, really big there. So, an integration with Complex gets you more efficient. There is a lot of data modeling, for example, you can use in the casualty space to better assign claims to the right handler, get the expertise on the right claim at the right time, predict claims that are going to go into litigation, for example, and get in front of those, where today, much like that telematics process I talked about, that's a little bit reactive. So now an insurance company can be proactive. So when I think about it, I don't think there's any claims process across the board that won't be digitized to a certain extent. Some may be more than others, but certainly each claim is going to see a lot of that disruption sooner than later, I think.
Great. Thanks, Josh. Yeah, on the complex side of things, nearly everything we do is focused on delivering the claims journey, better, faster, and cheaper. And there's various, ways that we do that, from retrieving the records faster to more efficiently sharing them with third parties, such as IMEs and radiologists, to providing better analysis of medical records so that there's a faster path to insight. So, we're also recognizing a lot of the same things that you just mentioned in terms of different areas of the claims processed, not being outsourced per se, but, involving additional technology and different partners. And there's a great opportunity for the insurtechs out there, to work collectively together. And we've done that with Authentic 4D, who also is a State Auto partner. So there's an opportunity there from the insurtech standpoint to really streamline things even further. Well, Josh, looks like that is all the time we have for today. It's been fantastic speaking with you. To all of you that tuned in today, thank you for attending our session. If you have any questions, feel free to pop into the Compex virtual booth, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Lauren.